Hey guys, this is Mohit Singh, and today we'll be looking at LeetCode question 13, Roman to integer. We'll be doing this in Python 3, but before we get to the coding, let's just take a second and look at the question itself. So in this question, we're given an input of Roman numerals, and we want to translate that and just return the value of it. So an input and output. It's defined in a function. Um, so we're given this chart of symbols and values. So I equals 1, v equals 5, x equals 10, and so forth. So the first idea might just be to have a for loop that goes through each iteration of a string. So let's just say we have, um, let's do v, I. So we just want to go through each index. So v, then I, find each value. So v would be 5 plus 1, I is 1, and I all again is 1. And then we return it as 7. We just output 7. This would work, but as it's explained here, there are several cases where we might have a small number that comes before a large number, and it's not adding, it's actually subtracting. It's right here. So we could have a case such as I, X, I, V. So I don't know if this is an actual number, but I'm just going to assume it is just for the sake of this example. So let's go through that for loop. Let's go through each value. So we obviously can't just add 1 plus 10 plus 1 plus 5 because that's incorrect. We're actually taking 10, subtracting 1, and taking 5, subtracting 1. But we don't want to do this where we find a large value and then subtract the value that comes before, because it's going to get confusing and difficult. So instead, what we could do is that we first look at the first instance, so the 0 index of this string, and then we find the value, and then we check the value of the index that comes after, not the index, the character that comes after. So I is less than x. That's 1 is less than 10. So we're going to subtract 1 from the total. So let's just do subtract 1. Now x, now we're on the second index. X is greater than I, which comes third, the second index. Since x is greater than I, we were going to add 10 to our total. Now we do this again with I, and since it is less than, we're going to subtract 1 again, and we're going to check if, we're going to check for v, sorry. And since there's nothing after v, there's nothing here, we're just going to add it. So add 5. So this total would be minus 1 plus 10, which is 9, minus 1 again, 8, and then plus 5, 13. So the total would be 13. I don't know if this is an actual number, but if IXIV is a number, a valid like Roman numeral, the output would be 13. So now let's get into coding it. Okay, so now that we're ready to code, first let's define a dictionary for each symbol and its following value. So this dictionary can be represented as numerals. Here I have it set up. So we have each key as a string, and then the corresponding value. So I is 1, V is 5, X is 10, so forth. So now that we have this, we know what each value equates to. So now let's just make a for loop that just runs through the program and basically runs through each index of S, which is the string that has been inputted. So for X in range len of S. So X will be the occurrence, and range of len basically just going through each index of S. So now this is where we need to consider the if it is greater than or less than. So we're going to set the first condition, the if statement, for if it is less than the number that comes afterwards. So let me just type that out. So, oh wait. If, yeah. Sorry, I think I'm in caps. Yeah. So, if the numerals of s of x, which is saying the value we're currently on, is less than the value that comes afterwards, we want to subtract. So, what are we subtracting from? Let's just set up a value, total. Total equals 0. This can just be an int, and let's solve for it. So total minus equals the value we're currently on. So can you spot a problem here? So the issue is that, let's say our value is, let's go with ix, iv. The issue is that once we get to I, we can compare it with v. Once we get to v, what do we do here? What do we compare it with? There's nothing that comes afterwards. So we would get an error, but also we just want to add this, we don't want to subtract. So we're going to add an and to this condition, and we're just going to do if x plus 1, here I'll put it in first. If x plus 1 is less than the length and the value we're currently on is less than the value that comes afterwards, then we subtract. And since there's only one other possible condition for this situation, which is greater than, we're just going to do else instead of actually defining a new condition. And we will just take the same statement, but instead of subtracting, we will be adding. So now that we have this, total, by the end of this loop, total should be set up correctly. And all we have to do is return total. So now that we have this, let's just run through this code real quick. I'm going to put these comments in just to explain. So firstly, we have our dictionary. Our dictionary just goes through each symbol and value. We instantiate a variable of an int total, set it to 0. And then we go through each occurrence of the string that's been entered. If it is less than and it's not the last value, we subtract. If it is greater than, then we just add. Or if it is the last value, we just add. And then at the end of this loop, we just return the total. So let's submit it, see how that goes. Okay, so here we have our code, and basically it runs. I've tried this equation a couple of different things, and yeah, it seems like it's kind of random because I did the same method, but runtime was 57 ms faster than 82% of submissions. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.